Welcome to REI Unite. I'm Ryan Polakaitis, your host, and I'm here with a very special guest, Aaron Fragnito. Aaron is a real estate agent with RE/MAX and also an investor. He's done many real estate transactions, including complex short sales. He's also the co-founder of People's Capital Group, which specializes in commercial property. Thanks for being on the show, Aaron.
Thanks a lot for having me, Ryan. Always a good time.
Great. So before we jump in, Aaron, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in real estate?
Sure. Well, I got started about 6 years ago, and rather knew the industry at that point. Was a serial entrepreneur, started a number of companies, but real estate was always attractive to me, and I started as a realtor. Learned distressed properties. It was 2008, 2009. There was no regular business to be had. It was all distressed properties. So I met Ryan through that as well. We did a lot of short sales together. I did over 100 transactions as a realtor, dozens of wholesale deals, and then I got into flipping houses and lost a little money on my first flip, learned how to do it properly, started making some money on the flips and the commissions on the realtor business and building a team of agents under me. And now we have 4 agents here at RE/MAX, and we do about a flip a month with my company, People's Capital Group. We also buy apartment complexes and income properties. We own 56 apartments over about 10 buildings, and just next month we're picking up about another 14 units as well.
Excellent. All right, great. So what we want to talk about today is obviously the commercial side of things, and to kick things off, why don't you tell us a little bit how you made the transition from residential to commercial?
Well, I always wanted to get into commercial real estate. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad to get started in this. So the goal was always to create wealth, okay, and low taxed wealth, which long-term buy and holds are good for that. So I got into the business by actually meeting a real estate investor, Seth Martinez, who's now my business partner at People's Capital Group, and we both put down about $40,000 or so of our own money, and we bought a 6-family property. Okay, we bought it with hard money, a combination of hard money and our money. We got money to purchase and renovate it all in one. We bought it, renovated it, got it fully rented out, and then went to the local bank to refinance and pull our money back out, moving on to the next one. And I just started using the monies I'm making from commissions and single-family flips and wholesale deals, all the cash I was making from that. I would try to save as much as I could, put it down on an income property, renovate, and then refinance out once it's fully occupied and cash flowing, and just keep on using that cash again to build my income properties.
Right, so you're leveraging each property to carry it over to the next.
Exactly. I'm leveraging, but more importantly, I'm setting it up for a refinance with a local bank where I can pull out 75% of the new appraisal value.
Okay, so 75%, that's what most banks are lending for commercial refinance.
Yes, correct. If you want to go to local banks, you go to Wells Fargo or something, you say, hey, Wells Fargo, I want to refinance my property. The 6-family, for example, we tried to go to them. I bought it for $220. I put $40 into it. So they said, okay, well, guess what? The property's now worth $260 because $220 plus $40 equals $260. And I said, no, the property's worth what a fair and ready and able buyer is willing to pay for the property. It's worth the fair market value. It's worth what the comps say, the comparable sales. And so you have to go to local banks like Provident Bank worked for us on that one. Valley National Bank is another bank we've used before, different credit unions. And if you develop relationships with these banks, you get to know that managers and the owners of these companies, the presidents of these small banks, they will allow you to refinance it within about 6 months of buying and renovating the property, which is so key because any other major banks take up to 2 years. And then also they'll give you a brand new appraisal value. Instead of just taking the purchase renovation price and adding it up and giving you 75% of that, they'll give you a brand new appraisal, the brand new value, and in this case it appraised at $335, and we pulled out like $260 on it or so, $250 on the property. So we were able to pull back most of our money back out of the deal. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So Aaron, actually, could you expand a little bit on that? So when you're going to one of these local banks and you want to refinance these commercial properties, what do they require? How do they evaluate it? What's the process?
Sure. Well, you do have to have good credit. You do have to show a good income. You are getting a bank loan. It's based also on the property and the strength of the property, strength of the cash flow. But at the end of the day, you're qualifying for a conventional loan, and any bank today is going to make sure you have good credit and good income. So if you don't have a good credit and you don't show a good income on your tax returns, you need to bring on a partner who does. It was very important. I've taken on many partners in my business. Some have stolen money from me. Others I've made millions with. And in this case, my business partner Seth Martinez. We've been together in business now over 3 years. We own a ton of real estate together. We do a lot together. We work every single day together on our flips and everything else. So he's a good partner. He has a good credit score, good income. Make sure you match up with someone like that because you need to have good credentials to get these refinance loans. But you also have to have good property. It has to appraise at a nice price. It has to look very nice. It has to be clean. Everything has to work well. I'm not saying you have to put in granite countertops and amazing cabinets and marble floors. I'm just saying it has to look clean and nice and renovated for the area. In this case, our property was in a nice part of Newark, so we did a basic cosmetic renovation on it, and it was not too expensive. More renovations were done like in the heating and the plumbing and electrical, paint, carpet, and that's really it. Siding, a little bit of siding, a little bit of driveway work, just ways to make the property really pop and appraise at a high number. And then you work your connections with the banks, maybe work 1 or 2 or 3 at the same time, see who gives you the best deal. And these local banks will give you 75% of this new appraisal value. Once you build a relationship with them, they'll give it to you in less than a year. But off the bat, they're going to tell you to wait a year, meaning you got to buy it, renovate it, rent it out, and in a year after you bought it, you can go and get a new appraisal value.
Okay, now let me ask this as far as the appraisal is concerned, and it's been a while since I've taken the real estate courses, but there's different, I think it's the cost income approach and there's the appraised value. Now, are they doing various methods and combining maybe an average of, okay, here's what comparable houses or apartment buildings are selling for, and here's the cost income approach, and how are you finding out that your local banks are evaluating to get that appraised value?
Well, the right way to appraise a property is the cost income approach, okay? If it's a property of 5 units or more, okay, because that's considered commercial property in the state of New Jersey. But the fact is, I've done this with 5 and 6 unit properties, and they almost always use a cost and a sales approach, okay? Sales approach is taking comparable sales. Cost approach is taking the cash flow minus the expenses and then putting a cap rate on it and justifying a value with that. It's a more mathematical approach. Really, they take into both accounts, and you need to take into both because just because let's say I have a 6 unit and each unit makes me $1,000 a month. Okay, if I lose one of those tenants, the value of my building doesn't go down by 18% or whatever that would be. It's just because I lose, or let's say I have a 5-unit property and I lose one of my tenants. That doesn't mean that it goes from being a $500,000 building to now a $400,000 building. I still have that unit. I still have the tangibility of the property. It's still in good shape. It's still there. All I have to do is find a new tenant. Maybe I'll find a better tenant. Maybe I'll find a tenant at a higher lease level. So you want to take a new cost approach, but also put a weight on a comparable sales approach. And what I think these banks do is they do a good combination of both, and they usually come out at pretty good prices. I bought a 5-family one time for $135. I put $35 into it, then it appraised for $310 a year later. I don't think he used the cost approach. I think he used the comparison approach, and that's usually what people do. When you get up to like 25, 30 unit properties, now you start using the cost approach based on income.
Right. So now, is that something that is your choice as far as, or it's the bank will evaluate?
It's the bank. The bank you pay the appraiser, but
right.
And in a commercial appraisal, it could be a good chunk of change. But the bank appraiser decides how the best way is to appraise the property. And usually the answer is it's a combination of both those numbers, the cost and the sales comp approach.
Right. Now, is there a lot of involvement where, you explained before as far as it's all about the relationships with your bank. Typically, when you purchase these apartment buildings, they'll make you wait a year until you have a relationship with them, and then after 6 months, they can refinance you out. Now, is this something where the cost income approach came in lower, like you mentioned, that you would actually meet with them and sit down with them and kind of go over the numbers, just as you would an investment versus somebody just applying for the mortgage where it's going to be based off of here's my credit, and here's one of my, that kind of thing. Sorry, you were denied. Is it more involvement in that regard, or?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you might sit down with the bank manager and go over the appraisal with him to kind of explain it better, but really you want to meet the appraiser out there. The appraiser is the guy you need to properly communicate with so that he understands exactly what's going on with the property and what you did to it to renovate it. What your true cash flow is. Do you have the garages rented out? Do you have laundry machines in the basement? What are your other income levels? Is there new construction around it? What's happening in the direct area? Is there high crime, or is it a good area near a school or, a church or whatever it is? In our case, there was a church across the street. It was a very nice block, and I had to make sure the appraiser took that into account. Because appraisers are human beings. They make mistakes as well. And I mean, if I had a nickel for every bad appraisal I've seen, I'd probably be a rich man. And basically, you run into a lot of appraisers that are just trying to get as many of these things done in a day as they can. And without you there to make sure they have the right information, everything can go awry. And if you think a property's worth $300 and appraised at $250, sitting down with the bank manager isn't going to do you much good. They're going to say, well, listen, I don't know what to tell you, buddy. Didn't appraise. You got to meet the appraiser there and knock it out of the park with him. Yeah.
Excellent. Great info. Let me ask you this. I mean, from a perspective, someone who's been involved with the residential aspect and now the commercial, I mean, what are some of the biggest differences that you see between residential and commercial? For example, I could say that when I went marketing for commercial, apartment buildings, I found out that the inventory, at least where I was marketing to in New Jersey, was a lot less. Your response rate, obviously, was a lot less. But not only that, you're dealing with a completely different seller. They're more sophisticated. They're not, an average buyer owner who, just has an extra house that they inherited and they're just motivated. You're dealing with savvy buyers. Maybe can you elaborate a little bit on some of the differences that you see when you made that transition from real residential to commercial?
Yeah, it's much harder to buy. I mean, we've bought a 25-unit package property before, and that was tough. The guy had owned it for 40 years. He put his blood, sweat, and tears into it. It's a family-owned building. That was his retirement money. The type of deals when you're buying a 3 or a 4 family are much easier, and there's usually a lot more room for negotiation. There's more play with appraisal values. There's a lot more inventory, so the guy knows, if I lose out on a 4-unit, it doesn't matter. Ryan's going to email me another one the next day, and I mean, and the people know that, so the whole negotiation is different. Right now, it is more of a seller's market for apartment complexes. People want to get in on apartment complexes. They're priced very well in comparison to the stock market and other asset classes where you can park your money and make a return. We feel that the commercial housing bubble is not there. There is no commercial housing bubble right now. It's a very flat market. I think that has been pretty flat for some time. So I see a lot of growth in that. I think a lot of analysts see that as well, that the commercial apartment complex market right now is very healthy and expected to really take off a little bit over the next 5 years or so, we're hoping. And because of that, it's hard to get a good deal. There's less of them out there. Right, like you said, the guys are more savvy. They're businessmen that maybe own 10 other buildings or so, and it's a much bigger decision. So if you want to get started in owning property, there's no shame in owning a 2 or 3 or 4 family building. In fact, that's the best way to get started. I don't agree with these guys, these gurus that will sell you a $30,000 package and tell you to go lock up a 100-unit building. Mm-hmm. That's not the right way to get started in real estate. Right. I mean, people might have done it successfully, but talk to them a few years later, see how they're doing with the management of it and how it's actually cash flowing. Owning a lot of units in one place is a huge undertaking, and start with 3 or 4, pocket a couple grand a month instead of trying to get that payday that's going to retire you in 6 months. I would say start slow, and it's easier to find a deal that's like 3 to 4 units. The insurance is less, the management is less, everything is less. It's easier to do. It's faster too.
Right, to get that experience before you're ready for those amount of units. That 40 unit, is that the one you stole from us down in South Jersey?
The 25 unit? Yeah.
I think so. We were looking at that. That was an interesting one. But yeah.
Billingsport Road, right?
I believe so. I'll have to check. I remember I spoke to you and all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute, we're evaluating the same deal. But that was, that may be a little advanced. I don't want to say advanced for us, but we're involved with a lot of rehabs right now and some other single family residential rentals. But That was interesting. So actually, that was a good point you mentioned for people looking to get it started. You have any other advice for those that are maybe looking to make the transition or just start in apartment buildings? Maybe they have a couple of other 2-family, 3-family, 4-family, and they want to trade up or they want to just engage in the apartment buildings. Anything you recommend for them to get started? Because it is a different animal.
Yeah, if you already have assets in place, if you own 5 3-family properties, you can either refinance some money out and use that to go down, or you could sell a couple, whatever. But let's say you're in a position where most people are, where you're just getting started. The best thing to do is either raise a little capital from a friend or family member, put a little in yourself, and again, let's take, for example, this 5-unit property I bought a little while ago. I bought it for $135, and I put another $35 into it. That's $170. Now, I got 80% of that from the hard money lender. That means I only needed $40,000 to do it. Chances are most people could scrounge together $40,000 between the friends and family members, as long as you work out the right type of deal with it. And what I did was I got the 20% down from a private investor who was also at the time my roommate, still a very good friend of mine. We still invest together all the time. That's how most people get started, as a friend or family member. I got my 20% down from him. I gave him 20% equity in the LLC. I managed everything. I managed the management company. I managed the general contractors. Now understand there what I just said. I managed the management, okay? I managed the general contractor who's managing my subcontractors. So what I did was I just managed the managers, right? So I didn't put all my time. I wasn't there every day doing this, doing that, and that. I didn't, the tenants were screened. The subcontractors were already interviewed and paid. Everything was taken care of. So I had the teams in place to take care of it. I raised the 20% down. Hard money came in with the rest. Let's say I took another $10,000 out of my pocket to cover closing costs and things like that. The property was quickly renovated and cash flowing, and that covered our holding costs, and then I went to refinance. Now, the guy who owns 20% of the LLC, he had to sign all the loan docs, and he had to qualify with me, so he had to have a good credit score and income. But then a year later, we went to refinance. Now, I have a completely renovated, completely cash flowing 5-unit. I own 80% of it, and I put down $10,000. He owns 20% of it. He put down about $40,000. So in that case, he gets his money back when we refinance, and he still owns 20%. So he gets 20% of the cash flow and the tax depreciation, and when we sell it, he'll get 20% of the payday on the back end, and maybe in 5 years or so. I own 80%. I get, of course, 80% of the perks of owning the building. And in this scenario, he gets his 40 grand back. All right. Now, I didn't get my 10 grand back, but I own 80% of the building. So I'll make that back in the first year or two of ownership. But when I gave him his 40 grand back, the first thing he said was, where's the next deal? And that's what all your investors are going to say. Best thing you can do is pay them back quickly and effectively. They'll give you that money back before you can hand it to them. They just want to get in buildings.
Exactly.
It works out great for them.
Right. I had, some of the hard money lenders that we've used on our rehabs exactly say the same thing. Hey, you were great to work with. When can we fund your next deal? So it changes from looking for money to them actually looking to lend to you, because you have the track record. Why don't you tell us a little bit more? I mean, obviously that's a great example of how you started off, but how are you funding deals now, and how those who are eventually going to get to the point where you're at, how do you raise, especially if you're talking a 40-unit complex where it could be $1 million, $2 million, even $3 million?
Right. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, every single day I work to raise capital. My business partner manages the construction into my business. I manage the fundraising and the event throwing. And so, can you hear me properly? The AC just turned.
That's what I hear. Okay.
Yeah. Do you want me to ask him to turn it off real quick?
I could probably hear you okay.
Okay, so what he does, he manages the construction in the business, I manage the fundraising and the deal acquisition and the events and everything like that. So now we raise money generally at a flat 12% interest rate, meaning that we will sign a promissory note with the investor. We'll pay them 12% on their money. We borrow the money. We'll take this 11-unit package, for instance, okay? I need about $100,000 in liquid cash to buy this. The rest is coming from a hard money lender. So I'm going to go to one of my investors. She's putting in $100,000. I'm going to my partner and I will sign a promissory note with her. We will personally guarantee that $100,000. We can even put it on title as a second lien behind the hard money lender on title. And now she's going to get 12% on her money. We'll refinance the property in about 6 months, and at that point she gets her full principal back, plus her interest. So does it make her a millionaire overnight? No, but a 12% interest rate is guaranteed. Even if the deal doesn't work out, the interest is still paid, the principal is still paid. We have cash reserves to pay those interest to principal if anything goes wrong in the deal. And our ducks in a row, our people in a row, our dream team's in place so that we're able to complete this transaction quickly and properly. So we raise money at a lower interest rate now, and that's 12% interest. And instead of giving away equity, now we give away interest and we secure the money and personally guarantee it. And that's where I think every investor should aim to get to, is go from giving away equity to then giving away debt and paying an interest rate. And if 12% doesn't interest your investors, offer them 18. I know people offer 24. Or if you really know your stuff and you got a bunch of investors looking to invest in you, offer them 8, or 6, whatever the market calls for.
Right. So let me ask you this: when you have these private money investors, what documents or pamphlets or basically what are you presenting to them so that you're laying out the entire deal? They understand the mechanics. I mean, they may be private money investors that don't really know real estate, but you have to pitch them a real estate deal. So what are you presenting them? How are you outlining the deal to get their comfort and to make sure they understand it, especially with a apartment building, which is a little more complex than, hey, here's a house we're going to buy at X, we're going to put this much in, secured by a first lien mortgage at percent, blah, blah, blah.
Right. Well, if I'm going to do, let's say I'm doing a 25-unit apartment complex that I'm not refinancing out of right away, and it's like a syndication, meaning I'm going to buy it, I'm going to hold on to it for 5 years. In that case, I actually am going to give away equity. I'm going to give away 70% equity, and I'm going to hold 30% equity, and we're going to get a conventional loan on the property to leverage our money. And in that case, I'm bringing equity partners on the deal. It's a long-term investment, so I'm showing them a lot more documents. I'm showing them a lot more rent rolls, profit and loss, operating agreements, just a ton of stuff, right? However, let's focus on what I was just explaining, like an 11-unit acquisition where I can purchase, renovate, refinance out. I'm buying it as a distressed property, okay? In that case, I'm raising money at a 12% interest rate, and I'm offering them a promissory note. This promissory note is 2 pages long. It's a simple, standard promissory note. It's completely focused on the lender, not the borrower. It throws me under the bus. If anything goes wrong, I got to pay all their legal fees. I got to do this and that. I personally guarantee the money. That means even if the LLC we're buying it in files bankruptcy, they can come into my personal checking account and they can take my personal checking and savings. They can take my car, my house. I'm personally guaranteeing it. Okay. So by that, the first thing I do when I go to raise money is I explain that we're personally guaranteeing, we're personally backing it. By the way, here's our business. We take on nearly $1 million of acquisitions a month that we close on. We have all this and this and this going. I could drive you around North Jersey till you're blue in the face showing you projects we're working on. So people see the brand, they see the business, and the way I raise money is the first thing I talk about is the brand, is the business, is other deals, other successful deals, other happy investors, my references, my experiences, my successes and my failures. And the last thing I talk about is the interest rate. Because quite frankly, by the time you get to the interest rate, no one really cares. All they hear is, okay, you know what you're doing, you have a good track record, you have the right documents to protect my money's secure. As long as you give me something that's decent and beats out anything else I'm making, then I'll probably invest, and that's what I find. So you don't want to focus on the interest rate. You want to focus on all the other aspects. You want to offer the right documents like a promissory note. I offer them an operating agreement. Even though they're not going to be in the operating agreement, I'll show them our 35-page operating agreement. It's a $3,500 legal document. I'll send to them in a form they can completely edit themselves. I'll send them all the spreadsheets we have. I'll send them all the real estate we own in a spreadsheet form, all the flips we're doing, the profits we've made on them. a small, simple PowerPoint presentation that goes over how we borrow money. That does mention the interest rate in it, okay? But the interest rate is not the highlight of my pitch. In fact, it's quite the contrary. The highlight of the pitch is me. It's us. It's the business, and that's how it always should be, because they're not investing so much to become a millionaire. They're investing to keep their money safe, learn something new. With us, they get all of our documents and forms that they can change them around in. So now they can take our operating agreements, our promissory notes, our spreadsheets, our scopes of work. Everything we give them is theirs now. And they have it in editable electronic form, so they can type in all the changes they need to make. And they're all going to meet our contractors, our architects, our attorneys, our insurance guys. Everyone. They're going to meet all the people we do the business with, so they can go out and do it themselves, the people and the documents, or they continue investing in us. And by offering all these additional bonuses to our people, it's like 12%. Okay, sounds good. And that's still actually a really good interest rate compared to what you find in the stock market a lot of times, or other assets or bonds make like 2% or so, things like that.
Right. That's a lot of great information. And you brought up a great point. I had a financial planner I was speaking to at the gym, and he gets money very, very cheap, maybe 2 or 3%. And this is before I even started engaging in rehabbing, probably right in the beginning, year plus ago. And through conversation, it was, hey, I could get you 12, 15% on it. He says, no, you don't understand. He says, I could put that on the street all day long. He says, but I want to do business with people that I know and I trust. I know you. So therefore, I want you to build your portfolio, and then I feel safe investing with you. And so exactly what you're saying is that people invest in you. So once you give them all those documents and everything, and once you've proven to them, they have that trust, which is very important.
Yeah.
So Aaron, we can just do like a high level walkthrough on this. I mean, obviously, I'm sure it could probably take an hour time, but can you just give us a walkthrough of a deal, maybe step by step, from like acquisition to raising the money to closing on it? Something, you don't have to go into major detail in each area, but just again from start to finish, kind of how a typical deal unfolds.
Sure. Okay. Well, I talked about the purchase, renovate, refinance out in pretty good depth. So let me talk about a syndication I've done. A syndication is when you buy a property that's not distressed and it's more of a turnkey apartment complex. All right. So Ryan, one of the reasons you had trouble finding a good deal in the 25 unit plus area is because there are not really that many out there. You don't steal properties at that price because you're dealing with a whole different realm of investors, multimillionaires, savvy businessmen and women that are able to really are very competitive in this business. So let's talk about how you do a syndication, which was not that difficult to do. First of all, you want to find something that's probably 90% occupied or more, okay, in an area that cash flows at usually an 8% cap rate or more. You don't know what a cap rate is, and the first thing you should do is buy a book on apartment complex investing and read it. I'm not saying that to be fresh. I'm saying that because you get a lot out of the book, and you need to know what a cap rate is. You need to know what a cash-on-cash return is. You need to understand what the average cost for maintenance is and management and things like that, vacancy, lease loss. You need to understand what these words mean, what these numbers are. So first, educate yourself. Then secondly, if you are looking to take on a 25 unit plus type of building and you want to do a syndication, meaning it's a mostly occupied, mostly turnkey investment, and you're just raising the money and kind of moving it into the building and getting a loan on it, and then just managing the real estate or managing the managers, which really is what you want to do, then you'll be in a good position. So with the 25 unit property, we bought it for $1,075,000. We found the deal in South Jersey, near in Paulsboro, which they're building a port in Paulsboro. This port's expected to bring about 2,500 jobs to a town of 10,000 people. So we recognize that, wow, over the next 3 to 5 years, this town's going to have 2,500 jobs. That means there's going to be another 2,500 just in people that need to take care of their housing and food and everything else, and police and firemen, whatever it is. There's going to be growth in that area. Once there's jobs and industry growth, other jobs will follow, more growth will follow, housing prices will rise, rents will rise. So we recognize that, and the port's now being completed. We own 25 units down there, one of the biggest complexes in this little town, and we're seeing that rents are going up, demand is slowly going up. So first you recognize an opportunity, an area where there's growth. all right? Not depression, but growth. It can be a local opportunity, like a port coming to a small town, or it can still be like East Orange, which is next to Manhattan, kind of, and you know there's going to be growth in certain parts of East Orange, or certain parts of Irvington that used to be depressed but now are coming back due to local government and high demand and high density of tenants and renters and qualified tenants. So you want to recognize these areas of growth and then find a good deal in these areas. Ideally something that's 20 units to 100 units that is mostly occupied, 90% occupied or more, that doesn't need a lot of work. Then you go out to your investors. Let's go through this one I did for $1,075,000. I bought it for $1,075,000. I need to put down 25% of that. Okay, we got a conventional loan, a regular old loan from a regular old bank, and we put down 25%. That's needing. I needed $250,000 plus closing costs. That's about $300,000 I needed. Okay, so what we did, we actually needed $330,000. Okay, $330,000 was the final cost because of additional other closing costs and whatnot. So we went to 3 investors, and we raised $100,000 from each investor, okay? And we gave them 66% ownership in the LLC between the 3 of them, okay? So each one of those investors then owned, roughly 20% or so in the property, okay? And at that point, we had the $300,000. We put in another $30,000 ourselves, and we own, of course, 33% of the building, okay? So they brought in most of the cash. We brought in a little bit of cash. We managed the management company. We also signed the loan. We personally guaranteed the loan. We broke down their ownership shares. Instead of giving them 22% each, we gave them 11% each, and we broke it up in 2 different shares for each investor. And by giving them less than 20% ownership each and breaking up their shares into 2 bits, they did not have to personally guarantee the mortgage. They didn't have to sign the mortgage at all. Only me and my partner signed the mortgage. They brought in the money. We brought in the deal. We signed the mortgage. We personally guarantee the mortgage. The funny thing about commercial loans is as they get bigger, you have to personally guarantee them less. If this was a $10 million acquisition, I would not have had to personally guarantee those loans. Since it was a $1 million acquisition, I did have to personally guarantee them. That's another topic.
We'll save that for the next show.
Save the next show, yeah. So they brought in the money. We own now 33% of the building. All right, the building makes about $4,000 in net profits per month. So we're able to get, let's say, $1,000 a month in our pocket from it. So we'll make our investment back. We put $30,000 in. We'll make our investment back in about 2.5 years. It's not a home run deal. It's not going to make us rich overnight. It's in an area where the value is ideally growing. The value of the building has been improved. The rent roll's been improved. We raised rents. We kicked out bad tenants. We had to evict about 6 of the 25 tenants and put better tenants in there. We had to renovate about 4 of the units. So we put a lot of the money back into the building. The first year of cash flow has not been too impressive because we're putting a lot of it back into the building. But the building's being improved, the value of it's being improved, and now we're really starting to make some good money on it and trying to find other value-add situations. Like one of the buildings had only 1 boiler, so instead of that, now we installed electric heat, so now they all pay their own heating bill, and that saved us a ton of money. Another building had no laundry machines, so we put in coin laundry machines. That made a little bit of money too, so all these little things add up and make more money as well.
Just to interject really quick, who's doing the managing? Do you have a property manager that occupies one of the units, or do you have a third
management
party?
Is the biggest challenge. Yeah, the single biggest challenge we've run into is management. I mean, it's just a nightmare. We fired 2 management companies in the first 6 months of owning this building. One of them we're still trying to get money out of legally. So he stole about $8,000 from us or so. So management companies can be very, very difficult. They can lie. I mean, we fired one management company, and then they went back and kept asking our tenants for rent, and ended up actually showing one of our units they still had a key to, we didn't know, and collecting a security deposit and a rent from this person,
Oh, wow.
and then running off with it. So they were actually just thieves.
So-
It wasn't even
yeah.
bad business. It's just lying and thievery. So you have to be really careful who you hire. And
So these
we
are
developed
off-site management companies.
off-site management companies. So
Okay.
we developed our own management company now. We have boots on the ground. We have people there. We have someone who is a super in the building, but really not so much. We have our management company go down there pretty often and work with a lot of the people there. So it's back on track. Our biggest challenge was the management. We failed twice at it. We hired the wrong company. They both tricked us both times. And basically, at the end of the day, we had to do it ourselves. And now we're back on track. We're doing much better. And that's why I always suggest buying real estate near where you live. If that thing was anything more than an hour and a half from where I live, it would have been really, really hard to clean up the mess. So as a first-time investor, don't buy something in Miami if you live in New Jersey or Chicago because your buddy told you it was a good place to buy. Buy something close.
I'm actually looking for condos in Miami.
Well, you're a savvy real estate investor, so it's different.
Right. Well, you said you're failing, but you're failing forward, as Justin Williams would say. And it's
You're
only
failing forward.
There
Yeah,
you go.
no, we're doing much better now at the building. The building's back on track, so
excellent.
failing forward.
That was some great info, Aaron. I'll tell you one thing before we conclude. It seemed that we glazed over it earlier, and I'm sure our listeners are dying to hear. The acquisition part of things, where are you finding a lot of your deals? Are they from the MLS? Are they pocket listings from brokers? Are they auctions? Are they direct mail? Is it online marketing? And given my experience, I mentioned when I did direct mail, very low response rate. Now, again, that could be just because the postcard I was using just doesn't command the same response rates that it would from residential. I didn't push it enough to really analyze those results of I guess field tested enough, but I could say, it definitely was a lower response rate. What I thought was because they were more savvy investors, maybe they just get a ton of these postcards every day. But where are you seeing most of your deals from?
Well, I mean, the reason you didn't get a very good response to bigger commercial buildings is because all those guys list with brokers. Brokers are very tight in the larger commercial business. Anything over like 12 units, apartment complex wise, or even less than that sometimes, any commercial building is going to be listed with a commercial broker. And these brokers have a lot of buyers, and they have a lot of other brokers they work with. And there's no lie, the best way to sell a house or a piece of real estate for top dollar is to list it with a realtor or a broker. I'm not just saying that because I am a realtor. I'm saying that because I sell a lot of houses that I own and everything else. And I've tried to wholesale them before. I've tried for sale by owner. I've tried all these different avenues, and nothing compares to the MLS and working with a broker. That's why brokers are around. They're very, very good if you want top dollar. So the best way to find a larger investment property is through a broker. If you want something that's maybe 10, 12 units or less, you can look at wholesale deals. Again, you can look at realtors and brokers. There's a lot of them out there. Overpriced listings just sitting there, and like you lowball them and you get it somehow. That happens all the time with me. But also, in general, just wholesale deals, online access, foreclosure websites, auction websites are very good. But also networking. We host a networking event in Morristown on the third Tuesday of the month, and it's actually going on in about 2 hours from now. And we get almost 100 investors there. You better bet we do it to get deals. We do it to raise money. We lose money from these networking events. They are not a moneymaker. The money goes all to the hotel who's making the food and offering the place. We do our presentations. We host it all for free. And we do this to raise money and find deals. So if you're out there and you're asking for deals, you're looking for deals, you'll find some good distressed, smaller income properties that make sense on the numbers that you could buy.
Excellent. Thanks, Aaron. I really appreciate it. Before we go, just tell our listeners, and I know you just touched base on it, about your meeting each month. Can you just tell them how they can get in touch with you, whether it's private money investors that want to find more about People's Capital Group or any other agents that want to network with you, give you deals? What's the best way for people to get in touch with you and to attend any of these meetings that you have each month?
I'm an open book. I'm free to work with anyone out there. We work with a lot of different guys. Always looking to raise capital, find deals. We offer coaching as well. My cell phone number, you can call me on. You call or text me on my cell. That's 908-625-0264. I just gave out my cell phone number. That's exactly how you get access to me. I know that's crazy, but I don't really mind, man. This is an open business. People call me all the time and ask me questions, and I tell them everything I know, and I never send them a bill. I mean, you're different. I'm going to definitely have to send you a bill for this one. You can
Checks
also
in the mail.
email, yeah, there. You email me at aaronfragnito at gmail. That's aaronfragnito at gmail.com. We do our event on the third Tuesday of the month at the Hyatt in Morristown, and I co-own People's Capital Group. We flip properties, we buy apartment complexes, we do coaching, and of course, always looking to joint venture and work with you on deals and raise money.
That's great. And then People's Capital Group, is that peoplescapitalgroup.com?
peoplescapitalgroup.com is our website. Probably should have gave that one out first instead of my cell phone number. So yeah, go to peoplescapitalgroup.com where you can get all the information and fill out a form. We'll get right back to you. You can see a video, a number of videos on what we do, and a number of educational videos as well.
Excellent. Aaron, thanks a lot. Very informative. Look forward to having you on again in the future. And enjoy. I guess you got about less than 2 hours to get to your meeting.
Gotta get ready for it. Gotta sell.
All right, man. Take care.
Talk to you later.